Hey there, Margie Bryce here, bringing you the Krabby Pastor podcast. And I don't think you're going to be too surprised to know that it's too easy today to become the Krabby Pastor. Our time together will give you food for thought to help you be the ministry leader fully surrendered to God's purposes and living into whatever it takes to get you there and keep you there. So we're talking about sustainability in ministry. Hey, for this episode of the Krabby Pastor podcast, I am here with Amanda Simmers, and I met Amanda online. I think she was a mutual friend of a friend. You know how that goes online, and we're going to talk what people think most about self-care, which is food, and I like to say fuel, food. And then exercise and just your overall health in that regard. I mean, I know I push self-care in a more broad perspective and in a more holistic way, but this is an important component of this. And the reason that I wanted to have Amanda come on here, and I've been through at that time one of her programs, and it just was a very, very unusual and different take, I think, because we're all right now being bludgeoned with Ozempic, and we all want to run down and, get a weekly shot, and, then you're good to go for the rest of your life if you want to pay for it because your insurance doesn't. And if you want to, do that for the rest of your life, and that just really, it's tempting. It's very tempting because we all like the quick fix today. I do.
Absolutely.
I like the quick fix. I don't like the hard work.
I do too. Yeah.
Amanda does too. You're so funny. So anyway, so this is a different approach, and I'm going to let Amanda introduce herself to us, and then we're going to have our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, where do I start? First of all, thank you so much, Margie, for having me on this podcast. I love educating people. So for me to be able to get onto this podcast with you and just to share with everybody, that's my passion. So speaking of that and how I love to educate people, I'll kind of start there. So I am a nutrition coach and personal trainer. I, however, did not start off by doing this. I went to college to be an elementary education major, and preschool, early childhood development was my minor. So I spent 14 years as a preschool director. My husband and I, we moved around a ton and just constantly starting in a new preschool, and it was a lot. So when we moved back to Minnesota, which is where we first originally started, I was so burnt out from this career of mine and kind of took a little break and was really just trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I was actually a salon receptionist for 2 years in this little time frame where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be. And it dawned on me, nutrition, exercise has always been a big passion of mine. I grew up as a competitive gymnast. So, that activity, the taking care of your body was always something that I was so interested in. And so this one day, just working out at the gym, I was like, oh my gosh, like it's right in front of my face. Like, why haven't I thought about this? Why is it just now? Why is it 14 years later that I'm figuring this out? And so I told my husband, I said, I just signed up for school again. I'm going back to school. He was like, what? So went for a 6-month program, and he's always been super supportive of everything I do. But 6-month program, got my personal training certification and nutrition coaching certification. And actually, just because I was so used to working with children, that was going to be my focus. I wanted to work with young athletes. But as I started doing that, I learned that these young athletes, they live with their parents, and these parents don't understand anything about nutrition, anything about moving their body, anything like that. So that's what brought me more into working with moms or women and educating them about nutrition and exercise. But then it's just been kind of transpiring into what I'm doing now, which is really helping women. And I work with men as well too, but really helping them finally have a better relationship with food, have a better relationship with their body, but then also help them just get more on a path of, of truly understanding how their body works and what we've been doing to it and how we've just been wreaking havoc on it when we were in our younger years, and just how to get out of that vicious cycle of the dieting and just falling in love again with their body and what their body can do, and having a good relationship with food too. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah. I remember when I went through your process. At the time it was called Ditch the Diet, right? And
Ditch the diet.
and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm eating a grilled cheese sandwich and I haven't done that in years,
Yes.
and just not being afraid to eat certain things. And yeah, you have a process all laid out that I thought was really fascinating. And I still, it still resonates. I still have access to the material
Good.
and it still resonates with me because we've been told for years that it is only, eat less, move more. But there is a line, because I can be a chronic undereater. I'm more aware now not to do that, but I can very easily get to, 6 o'clock at night and realize, ooh, I still got some calories to eat, just to give my body the basics of what it needs to function. And so, so then I'll have something to, if it's a lot of calories, I'll have some nuts, but, but I will, at least I'm very aware of the fact that it is possible to undereat, and it is possible to then mess with your metabolism to the point where, not that it breaks, but it certainly is limping along. And that's a key facet. So explain to us what we have done to our bodies and to our approaches to better nutrition.
Yeah. So what we have done, like you had said recently, was, eat less, move more. And that's just how we've grown up. I mean, in our 20s, in our 30s, we were always told, even doctors tell us now, just keep eating, or just eat less. Like what's the problem? Just keep eating less. And so that's where it started for us. Was we were doing tons of cardio back in our earlier days, and we were eating less and less and less. And yes, it could have worked back then, but now people are coming to me and they're like, what is going on? Like I'm doing everything I used to do, or I'm actually even doing more, and it's not working. And doing that, and years after years and years of doing that, really actually does wreak havoc on the body. It wreaks havoc on our hormones. And I'm not just talking like our female hormones, but hunger hormones as well, thyroid too. But we truly have slowed our metabolism down. Let's say that you were only taking in 1,200 calories, and that was kind of like your base. And then when you were trying to lose weight, you'd have to exercise more, and you were probably eating less. So it's like you were under 1,200 calories at that point. And it's like, now you've brought your resting metabolic rate, or kind of like your standstill calorie hold, at like 1,000 calories instead. So we've created this problem all of our younger years, but we just didn't know better. We were always told, eat less, move more. But there has to be, and this is why I created my program, there has to be a cycle that you go through, or I call it phase dieting. And so, yes, it is okay for us to go into those moments where we do want to lose weight, when you do want to cut calories down, where you do want to add a little bit more cardio in, but you shouldn't be there too long. I mean, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. Sometimes I'll have my clients be in there for like 16 weeks, 20 weeks max, but then you got to get back out of it. And this is what happened to us in our earlier years too, is you would do your diet phase, but then I always said there were two phases. You would do your diet phase, and then you would do the, oh, screw this, or forget this, or whatever. I'm just going to do whatever I want. It didn't work anyway. Well, now you can do the diet phase, but you have to get yourself into a reverse and a maintenance phase again. You have to let that metabolism reset, because we can't continue working and functioning at 1200 calories a day. I always like to throw this tidbit in there. A toddler needs 1200 calories a day. We are grown human beings. We need more than 1200 calories a day. So
Yeah. And I remember the first time I went through we were working with messing with my metabolism, which I always say that if there's a famine in the land, I will be the last person standing. And
I mean, we can laugh, but yet
I
not
know,
laugh. I
I know.
totally
Well, it
understand it
speaks to
though.
what I, that I've bought into and I know when I met you, I was doing 50 miles a week on the bike, and that's cardio. And you were thinking, oh, I got to rear her off of this a little bit and get her doing some other
Yeah.
stuff. And so I have been doing that. But, or I would say if I was a horse, I'd be an easy keeper. You throw a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of hay in there and she stays nice and fat, as opposed to, and I owned one of these that was kind of, no matter how much hay I threw in there, you could still see his ribs. And I thought, man, I'd like to be him. No,
I'd like to
but
be him too.
I know. So anyway, you worked me up to, when you said, well, let's start you at around 14 or 1500, I like wanted to gasp.
Yeah, I'm sure your eyes were huge.
I know. And you worked me up to, I think I was closing in on 1900, and I had only gained a pound or two or three.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
and I thought, wow, this is kind of interesting, to just go along for the ride and see how this works. But then you have the different phases. So you're saying some of the trouble is that we will be on a diet almost all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
that it's like diet
Yeah.
and then do a maintenance or do something else. Can't just be on the diet forever and eternity. And I've done different programs and processes, and I've always wondered, why is it that this far into the program, it just kind of stops working?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we should not be dieting more than like once or twice a year. The majority of our year should be at maintenance. And the problem is too, and what's also wreaked havoc on our metabolism is, and I'm sure tons of listeners can relate to this, and I know I can because I was the dieting queen, hence the reason why I first named it Ditch the Diet, because I went through the cycles. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there too who go through the cycle where we start a diet on Monday, and by even that week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, we're like, this is so hard. And then we cycle, then we kind of lose our motivation, and we then kind of splurge and have a few days or a few weeks of eating whatever we want. And then we go through the cycle then of, oh my gosh, I have such shame, I have such guilt.
Mm.
Now I need to get back into the restriction mode. So it's that constant cycle too of restrict and then overeat and then shame, and then restrict, overeat, shame. So it's that constant cycle too, like I'd said, that messes with the metabolism. I like to call it yo-yo dieting. I mean, every Monday, how many people start a diet every Monday, even though they just started another diet the week before as well too, So we do that a lot in the year. If you even just look at your whole last year, and this isn't everybody too, there's some people who just don't diet, but for us dieters, yeah, it's a big vicious cycle that we've all gone through.
Yeah. And I like the idea of, okay, you're going to diet for this long, and then you're going to go into like a maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's even going to be
Yeah.
moments where you're going to try to drive up what your, I want to say resting heart rate, but that's not right. You're going to drive up
Resting
your
metabolic rate.
Yeah, you're
Mm-hmm.
driving up your
Yep.
metabolic rate, just kind of pushing the edge and pushing the envelope. So this is not a quick fix.
Absolutely not. I always say that to people too when they first start working with me is, I mean, my program now is 6 months in length. And that I always say too is like, that's the minimum amount of time, because you also want to look at this as more of your lifestyle. So It's a 6-month program, but it's definitely not your fix, because I'm trying to teach you ways to create healthier habits for you to, yes, reach your goals, but then also continue following this process for the rest of your life, whether it be you're in your fat loss phase, which is also known as the diet, or if you're in a maintenance phase, like you still are going to be following all of the same stuff that I've been teaching you in those 6 months too. So yeah, I do the 4 phases too. So I'll talk about that quickly. There's the 4 phases of fat loss that I teach. And when clients first start with me, and this is also very hard too. And like you had just said, this isn't a quick fix. So the first 4 weeks is the metabolic reset phase. So I actually have clients coming to me in their first 4 weeks, and I'm putting them at a maintenance calories. I'm letting their body and their metabolism just kind of rest, letting their body and metabolism kind of prime and prep and get ready for their first fat loss phase. So during that metabolic reset phase, yeah, let's say, Margie, let's say you're coming to me eating 1,200 calories consistently. And as you and I work together, I was trying to build those calories up. So in those first 4 weeks, I'm trying to get your calories up a little bit higher, because if I started you in a fat loss phase right away, we'd have to drop you down to 900 calories, and we'd have to, we want you to do the strength training, but we'd have to up your cardio. We'd have to up your steps. Like, that's a lot. And you don't have a lot of fuel in your body to keep that energy going. So now we're trying to get your 1,200 calories up to, let's say, even 1,500. So when you do move into your fat loss phase, maybe your starting calories is, 1,400, and then 1,300. And then there's other things we can adjust to, like the cardio and stuff and the steps. But then after your fat loss phase, you would then go into a reverse phase, which you and I worked on that together, where we brought your calories up, and how Margie said we brought her calories up to 1,900, which that's awesome compared to where you were when you first came to me too. So then after we figure out what your maintenance calories are, then you kind of hang out there for a while. And then if you have weight to lose still, then you can go into a fat loss phase again. But you really only want to get into those fat loss phases for a short amount of time and then get back out. You don't want your body to adapt. And that's what we did back in our younger years, all of the 10, 15 years leading up to finally trying to want to understand the body and fix that metabolism, is we don't want adaptation to happen. And our body has adapted to those 1,200 calories.
Right. So your body's maintenance has become where you think you are for fat loss.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, I mean, still, they say 3,500 calories is a pound. So that's, that's divided by 7, and that's how much you have to cut your calories. That's why, it works the way it works. I mean, your body is made to work, and this process and program helps you to make your body work the way it was designed to work.
The way it's supposed to be. Yeah, exactly. And our body is a machine, and our body is actually trying to work with us and not against us. But we've just been trying to work against it for so long that I am truly trying to teach the people I work with to work with their body. Like, your body is your friend. Like, your body is actually trying to tell you things too, but we choose not to listen to it half of the time. But now it's like, all right, how can I dial in? How can I listen to my body? How can we start working like as a unit rather than total opposite ends of the spectrum too?
So let me ask you some very deeply personal questions here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always an open book. My clients always say, I am so thankful that you are able to just share everything with us. It's like, I've had my own journey. I still have my own struggles, so ask away, Margie, ask away.
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to ask if you eat peanut butter.
I love peanut. It's funny that you asked. I had it on my toast this morning. And it was amazing. And I even sprinkled some cinnamon on top of it as well. But yeah, peanut butter was always a big no-no for me. I had a lot of restrictions. Chocolate was another restriction of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Carbs was another restriction of mine. So if you just heard me, I said I had toast. Like I had
Mm-hmm.
whole wheat toast with my breakfast and peanut butter. Where in the past, if I would have eaten peanut butter and toast or peanut butter and bread or even a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I probably then would have done extra cardio that day to burn off the bad carbs.
Mm. So yeah, so some of the carb stuff that's going around, I mean, it is insane. It's insane to me. This is sort of a diet, a bar that I run them through because I think it is silly to think I'm never going to eat a piece of cake again in my
Right?
life. That's
Right.
just nuts. And
Yeah.
it's not sustainable. I did Atkins years ago. I did pretty well on it,
Mm-hmm.
but at some point it's not long-term sustainable. And that's my
Exactly.
issue with it because I'm thinking, I do watch my bread. I watch the type of bread that I eat and
Sure.
steer
Mm-hmm.
towards sourdough. I steer towards the whole grain nutty stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and try to just go for the quality of
Mm-hmm.
what I'm eating. But yeah, even your process, it's not criminal to eat some cheese.
Absolutely not. I love cheese,
I,
especially with a glass of red wine
so
once in a
there,
while.
so there, it's, it, you have to do something that is going to be long-term sustainable for you in terms of the chocolate, in terms of, okay, I know I'm going to eat this much. I know which phase am I in? And I guess, it might sound a little complicated, but I think once you get into this and you realize, okay, well, I'm going to be in this diet phase 12, 16 weeks ish, and then I'm not, to me, that would be an incentive
Mm-hmm.
to, push through knowing there's, a different eating pattern that's going to happen next. And I'm going to eat more food again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to, move in and out of several things. And it does cause your metabolism to be, I guess, a little confused and it functions better. Is that appropriate or you correct me? Feel free to correct me.
I'm
That's
not
fine.
sure if I would say confused. It's
Okay.
just allowing your body to get back to where it functions at its best, like as at its optimal place and its comfort place too. So our body is probably a little bit more confused when we're in that fat loss phase, where it's like, whoa, what is she doing to me right now? Or what is he doing to me right now? And then once we get it back into that reverse, that maintenance phase, then our body is like, all right, I feel safe here. I know she's going to keep me here for a while. Let's do this. Let's enjoy this moment too. And then it kind of settles in. But I mean, it's good in those fat loss phases too for our body to be like, whoa. And usually what happens too is our body's like, wait, whoa, what's going on here right now? And it kind of hangs on to that weight for a while. And then all of a sudden it'll do like a whoosh. Like your body's like, all right, this is what's going on right now. We're trying to lose some weight. We're trying to lose some fat right now. And then it'll kind of release. And then it hangs on again for a while. And then it'll release too. So but the whole like food thing, just wanted to go back to that too, is I'm really trying to teach people, like I said earlier, to have that better relationship with food, but to incorporate the foods you enjoy
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And like you had said, the reference with the cake, it's like, I'm never going to eat cake again, or I'm never going to eat bread again, or whatever. But then what happens when we see that cake, when we do get that opportunity, we eat it and we usually eat way more. So it's like that feast or famine type, all or nothing type mentality that we've created for ourselves, where it's like, just have the cake and eat it too. Have it for your birthday, have it for your significant other's birthday, your child's birthday. It's okay to have a piece of cake. And even about the carbs, it's like it's okay to have white bread, but if a whole wheat bread with fiber actually helps your body feel better and it sustains it longer too, it's like you'll figure out what makes your body feel better too. So
Right.
yeah, just wanted to touch on the food thing.
I know. We went camping. Well, we weren't, our friends were camping, and we just go visit when our friends camp and have
Mhm.
the s'more at the campfire or whatever.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
know. And so somebody stopped and said, "Hey, how come there's half a brat here?" And I said, "Well, that was me. That was me." And, I just wanted some of a brat. I didn't want the whole
Yeah.
brat. I
Yeah.
just was like
Mhm.
debating where I was going to cash my calories in at, and it
Yeah.
was more
Yeah.
towards the s'more, but they did the same thing with a brownie. They said, there's a half a brownie here. Who did this? Because they were good size. I thought, and I had enough
Yeah.
that I felt, okay, I'm good now. I'm good now.
Mhm.
My girlfriend said, "Who on earth only eats half a brownie? How did you do that?" And I was just like, "Well, I'm just kind of, noshing here,
Mhm.
noshing there,
Yeah.
and just not feeling like I've cashed in all my chips over it, and feeling
Yeah.
guilty about it the next day, and what a slouch I am." And
Absolutely.
so now if there's half of anything left, people are going to turn and look to me, but
Oh yeah. I know. It happens all the time at my house too. My husband's like, "Who where's the other half of this?" I ate it. I ate the other half because I'm planning to have it later today or planning to have it tomorrow or and he's like, "Oh, for gosh sakes, just eat the whole thing." It didn't work in my plan to eat the whole thing, but I at least wanted some of it. And to me, that's about balance. And it's
Mhm.
about, like I said, having your cake and eating it too. You don't have to have the whole piece if you don't want the whole piece. And I like to kind of dabble here and there. I have my biggest thing too is chocolate. I absolutely love
Mhm.
chocolate. And I buy the Hershey Kisses and keep them in my freezer. And it's like I have one or two Hershey Kisses after every meal. And it's like I don't have a whole entire Hershey bar, but I have a little taste and it satisfies me. Where before I used to restrict so much. I remember just fighting in my head constantly, don't eat it, don't eat it, don't eat it. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh shoot, I ate it and I ate three more bars as well, where now it's like, oh, I have a craving for chocolate. Go ahead and have some. Like have it fit into your day. You are fine and move on.
Right, right. Well, I like that
Mhm.
approach as well. So if people want to get a hold of you, can you give us like your website or
Yeah.
however you would best like people to connect if they have further questions? Because I think you have a consultation that you
Yeah.
offer to people.
Consultation
And
call. Yeah. So
Mhm.
if you want to find me, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram as Amanda Simmers, just one word. Simmers is spelled Simmers, like simmers down. I always say to people. Otherwise, my website is amandasimmers.com. So super easy to find me there. And I do, you can go directly on my website or you can send me a message. And I do offer a free consultation call. I even offer a free kind of food journal reading where you would write down what you had to eat in one day's period. And then we would hop on a call and I would just kind of give some feedback as to what I would change, what I would add, what I would keep. And then we talk about, your exercise as well. I really try to promote strength training. Strength training is so, so important.
Mhm.
So that definitely will always come up in the call. And it's a huge part of my program as well.
I would say to my 40 something self, you need to be doing strength training. You
Absolutely.
need to do
Hmm.
that. I'm a little bit behind on that. I went, like you knew,
Better
cardio
late than
cardio
never.
crazy, and this is a whole relearning because our culture, it
Hmm.
dictates to us
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
need to be doing. And
Hmm.
this process is different than that. It is
Right.
a
Right.
different approach to try to get your body to do what it was designed to do. And I really do like that. But I would go back and say you need to, be doing more stretch, and you need to be doing some weights. You need to be, which I am doing now for other reasons, but if I could go back and instruct myself, that's definitely,
Hmm.
definitely one thing I would say,
Absolutely.
and then try
Absolutely.
to move on. And sometimes I felt like I was doing less than I was
Yeah.
when I was doing the heavy cardio and whatever.
Yes.
We talk about weights, and it really, the one thing I do like about that is, you can do lift and then you wait and pause between your sets or whatever, and you can
Mm-hmm.
just sit and do
Yeah.
nothing for a minute. So,
Twiddle your thumbs and
yeah, yeah. So in some cases, we've made it harder
we have
than.
we have made it so complicated on ourselves, which I totally get it. There is a lot of information out there, and it's almost like we're trying to kind of piece it all together to create our own thing for ourselves, but it's still just so overwhelming, and we're overcomplicating it for sure. So I really try to get everybody back to the basics, and you know trying not to, like you had said, you felt like you were doing less. We don't need to be killing our bodies every day with all of the hard work that we're doing it. This is where we need to learn to work with our body and not against it. So it's bringing those stress levels down. It's creating a happy place. It's taking care of your body. Like, this is your temple, and
Mhm.
let's try and work together, and let's really create a better space between you and your body, rather than
Sure.
being on total opposites of the spectrum.
Sure. And since this podcast goes a lot, not only because other people have connected with me that are not necessarily ministry leaders, and they
Mm-hmm.
listen to the podcast, but predominantly it is, they think that if I take care of my spiritual life, that's all I need to
Mm-hmm.
do and I am good to go. But eventually your little finite self, your your
Mm-hmm.
body is going
Mm-hmm.
to revolt and say, "Hey, you need to be taking care of me. I am the temple of the Holy Spirit." And
Mm-hmm.
so we need to take care of the temple. You can't just let the temple
Absolutely.
fall apart and get into disarray and all that. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, your program offered just something really common sense, that when you're
Yeah.
you're going through it, you kind of go, this kind of does make sense. If my maintenance level is too low and then I've got to drop it even further to lose weight, and now I'm in the unhealthy calorie consumption range, at
Mm-hmm.
some point there
Mm-hmm.
is a breaking point, and it's fuel. It's fuel for us to keep doing what we need to be doing, and not putting ourselves in an unhealthy spot. So I want
Yeah.
to thank you
Right.
so much,
Right.
Amanda. Do
Absolutely.
this is called the Crabby Pastor podcast, but just in general,
I love it.
I usually ask people what makes them crabby. And so I guess I didn't really give you any warning about that, but I always ask people that because one pastor that I interviewed said, "Hey, how come you didn't ask me what makes me crabby?" So now I try to do that.
Yeah.
So, I
Sure.
mean, do you have anything?
What makes me crabby, huh? What makes me crabby would probably have to be not having my me time. And me time to me is, sitting quietly with my cup of coffee in the morning and moving my body somehow, whether it's my strength training workout, whether it's going for a leisure walk, whatever. But it's every day I need that me time. And it's hard if all of a sudden, like, in the morning, like my morning just gets crazy and I don't get that me time, like I can feel a change in my attitude kind of for that day. Like I just don't feel calm and collected, but taking care of my body is, and if I can't do it, that makes me crabby. Where before I would have said, not being able to hang out with my friends and go party with my friends, and like that would have made me crabby, not being able to do it. But now, just as I'm getting older and learning more about myself, I'll be crabby if I can't take care of it. And I get crabby too if something happens to my body. That makes me crabby too. Because I'm like, oh, I'm doing everything I need to do. Why is this happening? But that again, I look at it more as a journey. And it's like, all right, this is happening for a reason. And I need to learn about what's going on and
Right,
take it as it is. So,
right.
so yeah, that's what makes me
Okay.
crabby.
Well, and that's a good word anyway for us, because, if we start our day just jumping on that hamster wheel,
Hmm.
that's just not that's just not a good way to start the day, is it?
No,
As
no,
tempting as it
absolutely
is
not.
for those of us who are goal oriented, we just want to get on a
Yeah.
charge, but
Yep.
it's not. It's not. We need to
Yeah.
just stop and, get ourselves in a spiritual
Stop and
place.
smell the roses, you know,
Yeah. I know. I know
for
we've been
sure.
given this beautiful gift of life and existence, and
Right.
we need to
Hmm.
stop for a minute and really reflect on that and treasure that and thank God for that. So, well,
Absolutely.
if anybody wants to connect with Amanda, it is Amanda Simmers,
Hmm.
SIMMERS.com. And I will put some contact information into
Perfect.
the show notes. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for
Thank
coming on
you.
the Krabby Pastor podcast.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Margie, for having me on here. But also, too, I just want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey too when we were working together. And I mean, and that's what I say to all my clients. It's like I truly appreciate every single one of them who allows me to be a part of their journey, because it truly is a journey. So it's an honor
Yeah.
to be a part of each person's journey.
Yeah, we talked about that journey thing. For those of
I
us who
know.
are goal oriented, I'm like, I don't want to be hearing about no journey. I want to know that I've arrived. I want to
I
arrive.
know.
But
I know. Yep.
yeah, it is. It's a journey, and sometimes
Sure
you
is.
get on, then you get off, then you get on, then you get off, and so yeah, it is a journey. So
Yeah, I've
thank
been on
you,
my journey for 19 years now. So it's been a journey. It's been a process for sure. So yeah, thank you, Margie, so much.
thank you. The Krabby Pastor podcast is brought to you by Bryce Coaching, and I connect with ministry leaders and help them when they are stuck, help them when they need to know what their next steps are, and just a journey with them, which is a type of self-care, actually. But this podcast is also brought to you by Bryce Glass Art. You can find that on Facebook. So when I am doing this podcast, it is paid for and sponsored by the glass articles that I make and sell and the coaching that I do. And it is my privilege to call you to radical self-care so that you can go the distance with God. Hey, thanks for listening. It is my deep desire and passion to champion issues of sustainability in ministry and for your life. So I'm here to help. I stepped back from pastoral ministry, and I feel called to help ministry leaders create and cultivate sustainability in their lives so that they can go the distance with God and whatever plans that God has for you. I would love to help. I would consider it an honor. And in all things, make sure you connect to these sustainability practices, so that you don't become the Krabby Pastor.